The smell of fresh cinnamon rolls usually made Maya feel safe, but tonight the air in her small Brooklyn bakery smelled like cold rain and expensive cigarettes. Maya was scrubbing the counters when the bell above the door jingled. She didn't look up. "We're closed, honey," she said, thinking it was just a late-night neighbor. "I'm not here for a cupcake, Maya," a deep voice rumbled. Maya looked up and froze. Standing by the door was a man who looked like he stepped out of a movie about kings. He wore a black suit that cost more than her entire shop. His hair was dark, his jaw was sharp, and his eyes were the color of a stormy sea. This was Dante Moretti, the man the newspapers called the Ghost of New York. He was the boss of the city's most dangerous family. Behind him stood two giant men with their hands hidden inside their coats. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs like a trapped bird. "Mr. Moretti," she whispered, her voice trembling, "I paid my protection money last week. I gave it to the man with the scar." Dante stepped forward. The floorboards didn't even creak under his expensive shoes. He placed a dirty, crumpled piece of paper on the counter. Maya recognized the handwriting instantly. It was her brother, Leo's. "Your brother is a very bad gambler, Maya," Dante said, his voice smooth like silk. "He bet money he didn't have. He bet on a horse that came in last, and then he ran away." Maya felt dizzy. "How much?" $500,000, Dante said. Maya gasped. "I don't have that. I make bread. It would take me 50 years to earn that much." Dante leaned over the counter. He was so close she could smell his sandalwood cologne. He reached out and touched a stray piece of flour on her cheek. Maya jumped, but she couldn't move away. "I don't want your bread, Maya," Dante whispered. "I need a wife, someone pure, someone who has never seen blood." He pulled out a gold ring. It was heavy and looked like a cage. "Marry me tomorrow morning. If you do, Leo lives and your debt is gone. If you say no, well, I have a very long memory." Maya looked at the ring, then at the dark man in front of her. She had to choose, her freedom or her brother's life. Before we continue the story, I just want to take a moment to say thank you. To everyone who watches, likes, and supports this channel, I truly appreciate you more than you know. And if you're here right now enjoying this story but haven't subscribed yet, take a second to show some love. Because every single like, every subscription, it helps bring more stories like this to life. Thank you. The sun hadn't even come up when a black limousine pulled up to Maya's bakery. She hadn't slept for a single second. She had packed her life into one small suitcase, her hands shaking so hard she dropped her favorite photo of her and Leo twice. "Time to go, Mrs. Moretti," one of the guards said. He didn't smile. He didn't even look her in the eye. They drove to a cold stone church on the edge of the city. There were no flowers, there was no music. There were only men in dark suits standing by the doors with their shadows stretching across the floor. Dante was waiting at the altar. In the dim light, he looked even more terrifying. He looked like a king waiting for a prisoner. As Maya walked down the aisle alone, her white dress felt like a shroud. The ceremony lasted only 5 minutes. When the priest asked if she took him as her husband, Maya's throat felt like it was full of sand. She looked at Dante. He wasn't looking at the priest. He was staring straight at her, his eyes burning with a strange intensity. "I do," she whispered. It felt like a lie and a death sentence all at once. He slid the heavy gold ring onto her finger. His skin was hot against hers. Then, without a word, he led her out of the church and into a different car. This one was even bigger, with tinted windows that blocked out the world. "Where are we going?" Maya asked, clutching her purse. "To my estate," Dante said, staring out the window. "It is in the mountains. You will be safe there. My enemies cannot find you, and you cannot find a way to run away." The drive took hours. By the time they reached the iron gates of the Moretti mansion, the sky was turning purple. The house was massive, built of black marble and glass. It looked beautiful, but it felt like a cage. Inside, the house was silent. Dante led her up a grand staircase to a massive bedroom. He closed the heavy oak door behind them, and the click of the lock sounded like a gunshot in the quiet room. Maya backed away, her heart racing. She hit the edge of the large bed and tumbled slightly. She looked up at him, her eyes filling with tears. "Please, I did what you asked. I married you. Just don't hurt me." Dante walked toward her slowly. He unbuttoned his cuffs and tossed his jacket onto a chair. He loomed over her, his shadow covering her completely. He reached out, and for a moment, Maya thought he was going to strike her. Instead, he gripped the bedpost next to her head and leaned down until his breath stirred her hair. "I will be gentle, and trust me, you will enjoy it," the Mafia Boss said. Maya froze. Her heart stopped beating for a full second. She expected the worst. She expected the monster from the stories. But then Dante stepped back. He pointed to a silver tray on the table she hadn't noticed. On it was a bowl of hot chicken soup and a piece of crusty bread from her own bakery. "You haven't eaten since yesterday." His voice dropped to a low growl. "Eat, then sleep. I have business to attend to. I told you, Maya, I protect what is mine, and right now, you are mine." He turned and walked out, locking the door from the outside. Maya woke up to the sound of a bird chirping. For a second, she thought she was back in her tiny apartment above the bakery. Then, she saw the black silk sheets and the massive crystal chandelier. The door was unlocked. She walked out into the hallway. The house was so big she felt like an ant. She followed the smell of coffee down to a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a palace. Dante was there. He wasn't wearing his suit jacket anymore. His white shirt sleeves were rolled up, revealing tattoos that wrapped around his muscular arms like vines. He was cooking. The ghost of New York was flipping pancakes. "Sit," Dante said without turning around. "The coffee is hot, the orange juice is fresh." Maya sat at the edge of a marble stool. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "The wedding is over. You have your pure wife for your image. Why the breakfast?" Dante turned around. He looked tired. There were dark circles under his eyes that made him look human for the first time. "My mother used to say that a house without the smell of breakfast isn't a home. If we're going to be seen in public, people need to believe I care about you." "And do you?" Maya blurted out. Dante stepped closer. He placed a plate in front of her. "I care about keeping my word. You are safe here." Suddenly, his phone buzzed on the counter. He looked at the screen and his face turned to stone. He grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. "Stay inside, Maya," he warned. "The gardens are fine, but do not go past the gate. My men are everywhere. They are there to keep people out, but they are also there to keep you in." As soon as his car roared away, Maya felt a surge of bravery. She didn't want pancakes, she wanted answers. She began to explore the house. She found a library filled with thousands of books, a cinema, and a gym. But at the end of the hall, she found a door with a heavy keypad. The door was slightly ajar. Maya pushed it open. It was an office. On the desk was a folder with her name on it. Inside were photos of her, at the park, at the bakery, even a photo of her sleeping through her window. But there was something else, a news clipping from 10 years ago. It showed a car crash. The headline read, "Moretti Family Tragedy. Was it an accident or murder?" Underneath, someone had scrawled a name in red ink, Leo Thorne. Maya's heart stopped. Her brother? What did her brother have to do with a 10-year-old accident involving Dante's family? Before she could read more, a cold hand gripped her shoulder. "I told you not to leave the kitchen, Maya." It was the guard with the scar, and he didn't look happy. The guard's grip on Maya's shoulder was like an iron claw. "I told you to stay in the kitchen," he hissed. His eyes weren't just angry, they were terrified. "What is this?" Maya asked, her voice trembling as she held up the news clipping. "Why does my brother's name have red ink on it? What does Leo have to do with Dante's family?" Before the guard could answer, the office door swung open. Dante stood there. He looked different. His hair was messy, and there was a dark stain on his white cuff that looked suspiciously like blood. He looked at the paper in Maya's hand, then at her face. "Leave us, Marco," Dante said quietly. The guard didn't wait. He vanished instantly. Dante walked into the room and closed the door. The click of the lock felt heavier this time. He took the paper from Maya's shaking fingers. 10 years ago, a car was run off a bridge," Dante said, his voice cold and flat. "My mother and my little sister were inside. The person who drove the other car was never caught, but witnesses saw a blue sedan, a sedan registered to your father." Maya felt like she had been punched in the stomach. "My father? No, he was a good man. He was a teacher. He would never—" "I know," Dante interrupted. "I watched your father for years. He wasn't a killer. But your brother, Leo? He was 16. He was angry, and he was driving that car that night." Maya shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "Is that why you married me? To get revenge? Am I just a toy for you to break because of what Leo did?" Dante stepped so close she could feel the heat radiating off his body. He placed his hands on the desk on either side of her, trapping her. "I will be gentle, and trust me, you will enjoy it," he said, repeating the words from their wedding night. "But I wasn't talking about dinner, Maya. I was talking about the truth. The truth is, I brought you here to hurt Leo, but now that you're here, I can't let you go, and it's not because of the debt." Suddenly, a loud alarm began to blare throughout the mansion. Red lights flashed in the hallway. "They found us," Dante growled, reaching into his desk and pulling out a heavy black handgun. "Stay behind me, Maya. If you want to live to see tomorrow, do exactly what I say." The red lights turned the marble hallway into something out of a nightmare. Dante didn't look scared. He looked like a hunter who had finally found his prey. He grabbed Maya's hand, his grip firm but not painful. "Down the back stairs, now," he commanded. As they ran, the sound of glass shattering echoed from the front of the house. Heavy boots thundered on the floorboards above. Maya's breath came in short, sharp gasps. She had never seen a gun before, and now the man she had just married was holding one like he was born with it. They reached the kitchen, but Dante didn't stop at the door. He pushed a hidden button behind the spice rack, and a section of the wall slid open to reveal a dark, narrow tunnel. "Get in," he whispered. The tunnel was cold and smelled like damp earth. They crawled for what felt like miles until they emerged into an old stone shed at the very edge of the property. Outside, the rain was pouring down, mixing with the smoke rising from the mansion. Dante peered through a crack in the door. "It's a hit squad, the Valenti family. They must have found out about our wedding faster than I expected." "Why would they attack because of a wedding?" Maya asked, shivering in her thin silk dress. Dante turned to her, his face inches from hers in the dark. "Because a Moretti with a wife is a Moretti with a weakness. They don't want to kill me, Maya. They want to take you. If they have you, they own me." Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the rain. "But you said you married me for revenge. Why do you care if they take me?" Dante leaned his forehead against hers. For a moment, the ghost of New York disappeared, and she saw a man who was deeply, dangerously lonely. Because the second I saw you in that bakery, I realized I couldn't hurt you, and I'll be damned if I let someone else do it." Suddenly, the door of the shed was kicked open. A man with a mask stood there, leveling a rifle at them. "Found the lovebirds," the masked man laughed. Before Maya could scream, Dante moved with a speed she didn't know was human. A single shot rang out, and the masked man crumpled to the ground. Dante didn't even blink. He grabbed a set of keys from the fallen man's belt and pulled Maya toward a black SUV hidden in the trees. "We can't go to the city," Dante said, throwing the car into gear. "We're going to the cabin. It's off the grid. No phones, no guards, just us." Maya looked back at the burning mansion. She had lost her bakery, her brother was a mystery, and her husband was a killer. But as Dante reached over and squeezed her hand, she realized something even more terrifying. She didn't want to leave him. The SUV climbed higher into the snowy mountains. Maya watched the GPS signal on the dashboard slowly disappear. "We're off the grid now," Dante said. He looked exhausted, his knuckles white as he gripped the steering wheel. The cabin was hidden behind a wall of tall pine trees. It wasn't a mansion, it was small, made of dark wood and smelled like old cedar and wood smoke. Inside, it was freezing. "Stay away from the windows," Dante ordered. He knelt by the fireplace, his steady hands quickly building a flame. As the fire roared to life, the orange light danced across his face, making him look less like a boss and more like a man. Maya sat on the edge of a velvet sofa, wrapping her arms around herself. "Why did you save me, Dante? You told me I was just a way to hurt Leo. You could have let the Valentis take me. It would have been easier for you." Dante stopped stoking the fire. He didn't look at her. "I've spent my whole life being the ghost. People see me and they feel fear. They see my money or they see my gun. But when I walked into your bakery, you didn't know who I was. You just saw a customer who needed a cinnamon roll." He stood up and walked toward her. The floorboards groaned under his weight. "For 5 minutes, I wasn't a killer. I was just a man. And when I saw you in that white dress at the church, I realized I didn't want Leo to suffer anymore. I just wanted you to stay." Maya felt a lump in her throat. "But the debt, the accident, my father." "I lied about one thing," Dante whispered, sitting beside her. He was so close she could feel the heat of the fire radiating from him. "You trapped me in a lie." "I did," he said, his dark eyes searching hers. "And now that you know the truth, the door isn't locked anymore. You can leave. I'll give you a car. I'll give you money. You're free." Maya looked at the door, then back at the man who risked his life to save her from the hit squad. The silence in the cabin was heavy. Suddenly, a heavy thud hit the front door. Someone was outside, and they weren't knocking. Dante moved before the sound of the thud had even faded. He pushed Maya behind the heavy wooden kitchen island. "Stay down," he hissed, his voice like cold steel. He moved to the door, his gun raised and steady. The wood groaned again. Someone was leaning heavily against it. Dante kicked the lock open and swung the door wide, ready to fire. A man tumbled into the room, collapsing onto the rug. He was soaked to the bone, his jacket torn and covered in mud. "Leo!" Maya screamed, rushing forward despite Dante's warning shout. It was her brother. But he didn't look like the confident, troublesome boy she remembered. His face was bruised, and he was clutching his side. "Maya, you have to get out of here," Leo wheezed, coughing up a spray of red. "They're coming. They followed me." Dante grabbed Leo by the collar and hauled him into a chair. "Who followed you? The Valentis?" Leo shook his head weakly. "No, not the Mafia. The police. But not the good kind, Dante. The ones on the payroll. They know about the cabin. They know you have the girl." Dante cursed under his breath, looking at the window. In the distance, through the heavy snow and trees, blue and red lights were flickering. They were silent, no sirens. That meant they weren't here to make an arrest. They were here to finish the job the hit squad started. "Why did you come here, Leo?" Maya cried, ripping a piece of her silk dress to press against her brother's wound. "Dante told me the truth. He said you didn't kill his mother." Leo looked up at Dante, his eyes filled with shame. "I didn't kill her, but I saw who did. It was Marco, Dante's own head of security. I've been running for 10 years because Marco told me he'd kill you if I ever spoke up." Dante froze. The room went deathly quiet. Marco was the man who had been at Dante's side since he was a child, the man who had guarded Maya just 2 days ago. "Marco," Dante whispered, his eyes turning dark with a rage Maya had never seen. "He didn't just fail to protect my family, he murdered them." Suddenly, the windows of the cabin shattered. A canister of tear gas bounced across the floor, hissing white smoke. "Masks, now!" Dante yelled. He grabbed Maya with one arm and Leo with the other. "The basement has a tunnel to the old mine. We have to go or we'll be buried in this cabin." As they scrambled toward the trapdoor, a voice boomed from a megaphone outside. "Dante Moretti, come out with your hands up. We have the Thorne girl. If you want her to stay pretty, you'll give us the ledger." Maya looked at Dante. "They said they have me, but I'm right here." Dante's face went pale. "They don't have you, Maya. They have a double. They're going to kill the double and tell the world you died in a shootout with me. Then they can take over my empire legally." The trapdoor slammed shut just as a flashbang grenade exploded in the kitchen above. The shockwave rattled Maya's teeth, but Dante's arms were around her, shielding her body with his own as they slid down a steep wooden chute into the dark. They landed in a heap on a cold dirt floor. The air was thick with the smell of old iron and sulfur. Dante flicked on a heavy-duty flashlight, its beam cutting through the darkness of the abandoned mine. "Leo, can you walk?" Dante asked, helping Maya up. Leo groaned, clutching his bloody side. "I can crawl if I have to. Just don't let that snake Marco find me." Dante handed Leo a small backup pistol. "If I go down, you take Maya and you don't stop running until you hit the Canadian border. Understand?" "Dante, don't talk like that," Maya whispered, grabbing his arm. "We're getting out together." Dante looked at her, his eyes soft for the first time since the bakery. "I've spent 10 years trusting the wrong man, Maya. Marco was like a father to me. If he's the one who killed my family, then my whole life has been a lie, except for you." They began to move through the narrow tunnel. The wooden supports groaned under the weight of the mountain above. Every few minutes they heard the muffled thud-thud-thud of boots on the ground far above them. Marco's men were looking for the entrance. Suddenly, Dante stopped. He pointed the light at the floor. A thin, nearly invisible wire was stretched across the path. "Tripwire," Dante breathed. "Marco knows these tunnels. He didn't just come to capture us. He rigged the place to blow." Maya looked back the way they came. A faint light appeared at the end of the tunnel. "Dante, someone is behind us." A shadow emerged from the darkness. It was Marco. He wasn't wearing a mask anymore. He held a detonator in one hand and a silenced pistol in the other. He looked calm, almost bored. "I knew you'd take the mine, Dante," Marco said, his voice echoing off the damp walls. "You were always predictable, just like your father. He thought he could change the rules of the city too. I had to stop him, and now I have to stop you." "Dante, you killed a child," Marco growled, stepping in front of Maya. "My sister was 6 years old." "She was a witness," Marco shrugged. "Now give me the ledger with the offshore accounts, and maybe I'll let the girl go. But the Thorne boy, he's a loose end that stayed untied for too long." Maya looked at the tripwire, then at the heavy wooden beam right above Marco's head. She remembered what her father told her about old buildings. Sometimes the smallest nudge can bring down the whole world. The air in the mine was thick with the smell of old gunpowder and betrayal. Marco stood 10 feet away, his thumb hovering over the red button on the detonator. His smile was cold, like a snake watching a mouse. "One click, Dante," Marco whispered. "One click, and the ghost of New York becomes a memory. I'll take your money, I'll take your territory, and I'll be the king I was always meant to be." Dante stepped in front of Maya, his body a human shield. "You won't get away with it, Marco. Leo is a witness. The world will know what you did." "The world only listens to the winners," Marco laughed. Maya looked up at the ceiling. The heavy wooden beam was cracked, held up by a single rusted iron bolt. She looked at the small, heavy rock at her feet. She was a baker, but she had spent years throwing flour sacks in heavy trays. She had good aim. "Dante," Maya whispered, her voice barely a breath, "when I say now, drop to the floor." "What?" Dante muttered, his eyes never leaving Marco's gun. "Now!" Maya screamed. She grabbed the rock and hurled it with every ounce of strength she had. It whistled through the air and struck the rusted bolt. Clang! The bolt snapped. The giant wooden beam groaned and plummeted. "No!" Marco yelled, reaching for the detonator, but he was too slow. The beam crashed down, pinning his arm to the ground and sending his gun skittering into the darkness. The detonator tumbled into a deep puddle of water, its lights flickering and dying. Dante didn't wait. He lunged forward, grabbing Marco by the collar. He looked like he was ready to end it right there. His fist was cocked back, his face a mask of pure fury. "Wait!" shouted Leo from the shadows, stumbling forward. "Dante, don't! If you kill him now, you're the monster he wants you to be. We need him alive to clear my name, to clear your father's name." Dante's chest heaved. He looked at Marco, then at Maya. Maya walked over and placed her hand on Dante's arm. Her touch was soft, a stark contrast to the violence in the room. "He isn't worth your soul, Dante," Maya said quietly. "Let the law take him. Let the truth be your revenge." Dante slowly lowered his fist. He pulled a pair of heavy silver handcuffs from his belt, the ones he had once threatened to use on Maya, and snapped them onto Marco's remaining good hand. "It's over, Marco," Dante growled. But as they turned to leave, a low rumble started deep in the earth. The beam falling had started a chain reaction. Dust began to pour from the ceiling. "The mine is collapsing," Leo yelled. "We have to go! The exit is 100 yards away!" They began to run, the sound of cracking timber echoing like gunshots behind them. They reached the exit, a small hole leading to a snowy cliffside, but a massive pile of rocks fell, blocking the path for everyone except one person. The mountain roared as the ceiling of the mine began to rain heavy boulders. The exit was nearly blocked. Only a tiny, jagged gap remained. "Go, Maya! Get out!" Dante yelled, shoving her toward the opening. "Not without you!" she screamed back. Dante looked at Leo, who was pale and barely standing. With a grunt of effort, Dante grabbed Leo and hoisted him through the narrow hole. "Taken, Maya! Go!" Maya scrambled through the gap, pulling her brother onto the snowy ledge outside. She turned back, reaching her hand into the dark hole. "Dante, give we your hand, please!" Inside, a massive pillar cracked. Dante lunged for the opening just as the entire tunnel collapsed with a sound like a lightning strike. A cloud of thick white dust exploded from the hole. "Dante!" Maya shrieked, falling to her knees in the snow. She began to claw at the rocks, her fingernails bleeding, her heart shattering into a million pieces. "No, no, no, you can't leave me!" Seconds passed, then minutes. The silence of the mountain was deafening. Suddenly, a gloved hand punched through the snow and gravel, then another. With a roar of pain, Dante Moretti dragged himself out of the earth, coughing and covered in gray dust, but alive. Maya threw her arms around him, sobbing into his shoulder. Dante held her so tight she could barely breathe. "I told you," he whispered hoarsely into her ear. "I protect what is mine, and I'm never letting you go again." 6 months later. The Brooklyn bakery was open again, but it looked different. It was larger, with gold-trimmed windows and a sign that read Thorne and Moretti. Maya was behind the counter, placing a fresh tray of cinnamon rolls in the display. She looked down at her hand. She still wore the heavy gold ring Dante had given her, but now, next to it, was a simple diamond band, the one she had chosen for herself. The bell jingled. Dante walked in, wearing a sharp navy suit. He didn't look like a ghost anymore. He looked like a man at peace. He walked behind the counter and kissed Maya's forehead. "The police dropped all the charges against Leo. Marco is behind bars for life, and the Valenti family, they've retired. The city is quiet." Maya leaned against him. "And what about you, Mr. Moretti? Are you still the most dangerous man in New York?" Dante smiled, a real, bright smile that reached his eyes. He leaned down, his lips brushing against hers. "I will be gentle, and trust me, you will enjoy it," he whispered. She didn't freeze this time. She laughed. "Are you talking about the dinner you're cooking tonight, or the life we're building?" "Both," Dante said, pulling her into a kiss as the sun set over the Brooklyn Bridge. The debt was paid, the revenge was over, and for the first time in her life, Maya Thorne wasn't a prisoner or a victim. She was a queen. They made it! From a bakery to a throne. Did you love this ending? If you want a Season 2 where Leo gets his own story, comment Season 2 below. Thank you for watching the entire series. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out the full playlist on the screen right now.